So today I would like to talk to you about a topic which I'm sure you find really interesting because we all experience this. Sometimes you prepare for something like doing something for someone or doing something for yourself, like if you're looking for doing an interview for a career or improving your business, doing something, or doing study if you are a student. You prepare really well, but then things go wrong. Could happen sometimes, but sometimes you're not even prepared well. And so that's something that I'm going to talk about this on this video today. Make sure you watch to the end. I have an interesting gift that I'm going to share with you as well. You see, sometimes you come across doing your best, and one of them is maybe you run a business and you would like to provide a product or a service. Sometimes you're trying to start a career. You go and do an interview, and you have been studying for something, and you still feel that you're failing an exam or not the sort of expected marks that you require. You feel like you like to have. Most of us look at moments like these and we learn a painful sort of conclusion. And that's something that happens to most of us. We might say, oh, I failed, or someone else might tell us that. But there is another way to read what just happened. The business gives you information. Even the argument that you might have with someone about an interesting something that you are interested in can give you some information. Sometimes mistake sort of isn't the evidence that you are failing. So the mistake doesn't necessarily is going to say that you are actually failing. So the failure, the meaning of failure is not a cover for everything. It's just a momentous on a particular problem or issue which you need to rectify, you need to resolve, you need to find solution for that particular issue. Now, it could relate to many variety of different things, and it could frustrate you. It could frustrate anybody on this planet who is living and who is trying to get by their lives. Whether you are a student, whether you are looking after your career, whether you are looking after your business, whether you're just looking after your family or children. So failure can happen when you're helping your children to do something. You might come across situations where you feel you're disappointed. Sometimes you're helping, you're trying to study if you're a student, and it could be at school or could be at the university or could be for a course that you're studying, and you can sort of experience this situation where you start noticing things are not working properly, and you start going towards the direction where the feeling of failure, that painful feeling would come across. Now, in this video, hang on to this conversation. In this video, I'm going to describe as much as we can. Obviously, this is a one-way communication. It's a video, so as much as I can share the experiences of many wise people around the world uh, about one of the topics here is why things can, what does the feeling say when you are making a mistake. So in here, the mistake may actually be, giving you a map, that mistake that you are making or the failure that you are thinking about. Doesn't matter, you might be someone who is, like for example, about finance, someone who might be really poor or someone who might be really rich, and still the failure feels the same. Of course, it might have larger impact if you don't have a financial security. But for example, for someone who is rich, the impact might be less sometimes, might be less. So, but of course, as myself, I pray that mistakes or failure doesn't happen to anybody, and I pray that everybody has, successful steps forward in their life, in their study, in their career, in their business. And whether you are poor or whether you are rich, whether you have financial security or whether you don't have enough financial security, I pray that your success is guaranteed all the time. But sometimes we come across situations that that's not the case. And this video and our conversation is for that situation. So the question is here, are you willing to understand that the mistake and the consequent feeling that comes with it, which is the painful feeling of failure, are you going to willingly accept that this is a roadmap, a section which is in your path, in your life, where you are stepping forward? Could be study, career, or business. A mistake or a failure is a roadmap created for you. It's a life is bringing this forward to give you a perspective. Now let me explain the topic here. I'm going to read some documents as I'm going forward, so please hang on with me. Think about the last time something went badly wrong. So for example, in your life, sometimes you come across those kind of experiences. And the purpose of this video and me talking about this is basically to take you through that feeling, that moment, that emotion that caused a sensation that something badly went wrong. Think about that last time, or the one that you prefer. Sometimes it might be too difficult for you to think about something, a failure. So it's something that you are willing to think about. Think about that moment. Maybe you are prepared for an interview, and that interview didn't go well for a job that you were interviewing. Maybe you launched a business, something that people couldn't connect, couldn't relate to. That also could happen. So many people who start a business might find that the product or service that they're providing is not relating to the audience or the customer that they are looking for. So hang on with me. These are what I'm going to talk about here is very in detail. I'm trying to bring something really positive. Maybe you trusted someone who disappointed you. We all, throughout our lifetimes, from childhood, teenagehood, and adulthood, whether you're a female or a male, or any denomination, you find that life can become difficult. So specifically, I come across situations where I notice a lot of people with wisdom, a lot of people who are in their life have become really successful. They talk about situations in life where there has been someone disappointing them. Could have been a friend, could have been a family member, could have been their parents, could have been their wife or children. So this is a usual situation. Failure, feeling disappointment from someone in your life. It's a common thing. It's not something unusual. So you need to, when you understand this step, follow me in this conversation. I'm going to describe a little bit more as we move forward, because this is a very interesting topic. Being disappointed from other people, why this happens, and what does this mean? How does this impact our lives? Also, your mind probably wanted an explanation immediately. Your mind feels, comes up with the question, why this happened to me? Could be a disappointment, could be a failure. And the immediate question that you might ask yourself is that maybe I'm not good enough. This is something that comes to your mind immediately. That's how subconscious tries to explain things, that it doesn't understand. Your mind, if it doesn't have enough information, starts to combine its own answer to create a new sort of answer, so that creative to visualize a new way of new step, new direction, so that you can succeed. That's why your brain starts making an answer. So it tells you maybe you're not good enough. But this answer is not a very helpful answer as well. So it's just our brain, how it functions. You might say to yourself that I always mess up things. That also, many professionals, successful professionals, they talk about this, that at many times during their career, during their business, during their studies, they come up with a situation where they think that I always mess up things. So they lost confidence because of that disappointment, because of that failure. People, you might sort of think that people don't respect me. You might feel that sort of sense of mistake and failure can impact. Now, let me explain this in here, that why I'm talking about this topic and why I'm breaking this down. You need to realize that one of the biggest important steps when you are moving forward in your life, if you are looking forward to do better, maybe succeed or have success in your relationship, in your work, career, and in your business, you would like to look after your family better, you would like to increase your income. One of the most important and biggest steps that a lot of people are missing, and I'm observing that, and I would like to help, is that this sensation of when you come across a mistake, you feel failure and you give up. And that's one of the things that doesn't matter how much I teach you about the universal laws, or how you can become successful, or how you can increase your income. Doesn't matter how much I encourage you, how much I give you energy to move forward. If you are not aware of this little concept of what does this mean, having mistakes, having failures, what does this mean? This can ruin everything if you're not aware. So this is a very important lesson here in this video, that I'm talking to you about is that you must be very cautious that that sensation that I'm not good enough, I always mess up things, people don't respect me, nothing works for me. These kind of thoughts is going to push you very, very soft push. It's a very soft push that your subconscious gives you, and you give up and you don't take the next step, or you miss out on what's the plan that you had, on the preparation that you had. You give up, and that's going to impact, doesn't matter how much teaching or lesson I'm going to give you. So when you have this subconscious talk during those times of mistakes and failures, you need to notice what just happened. You need to come back to yourself. So an event happened, something happened, an experience came up, and then your mind created this story about what that event meant. So your mind tells you that what just happened, this is what it means. This is, it might even try to bring different memories or different stories unrelated to you and related to this event or experience that you just had. Now, remember, these happen all subconsciously. You're not observing. If you're not having the enough experience to understand your mindset, you won't be able to, majority of people won't be able to read what is just happening. Your subconscious is trying to translate your experience for you and create an answer for you. So, but you need to understand that the experience that you just had might not necessarily have 100% accurately similar to someone else's, or someone else had this experience or this story of life. It's not exactly the same. It's not 100% exactly the same. For example, a poor exam results tell you that something went wrong between preparation and performance, or it does not by itself tell you that you are unintelligent. So if you lose the confidence on your thinking that maybe you're not smart enough, that's a subconscious conversation which is based on the information that it doesn't have, or maybe it has, but it's not exactly the same as your situation. So it's your subconscious trying to translate your situation to help you have an answer very innocently, but giving you the information, the answer that is not really going to be helpful. And that's natural. This is how human brain functions. Now, a failed business, for example, in here tells you that the business model did not work under those conditions. It's really important to understand that the business model that you are following, or a product or a service that you are creating and you're promoting, that might not necessarily, if a failure in here does not mean that you are doing 100% wrong. It means there are certain tweaks that needs to happen. So about this business, it doesn't automatically tell you that you are incapable of building a business. So every human being since the ancient times, there have been many occasions that people with all types of characters, personalities, and intelligence have had the situation that they have to buy something or sell something. So it's inherent in our mindset as human being to have the ability to buy or sell. But you might be good at buying or selling, creating a business, about a service or product that actually is aligned with your character and personality. So it's possible for you to have a business. If you're running a business and having a mistake or failure, rest assured, there is a possibility there are services and products or businesses that you can be perfect for you. And let me tell you about the story of Daniel. Daniel wants to start a business. Eventually he gets an idea and he notices that people in his city are becoming more interested in a specific type of product. A product that, for example, in here might be related to, for example, food product. So he decides to create a premium, health quality delivery of some kind service. And he spends months preparing. He designs the website, he chooses packaging, he does all the relevant situations. Now, people tell him that this idea that he's working on, his family and friends might sort of encourage and tell him that this is great. And he does the job. So he launches the business, but he doesn't achieve enough customers, or he might not necessarily have enough orders to come through. And what happens is that Daniel starts doing other things like spending money on advertising or trying to spend more money on marketing the business. Now, at this point, he has two ways of interpreting what happens. So if the business is not succeeding, if there's not enough customers, he has two ways of thinking about this situation. The first is he can tell himself that I'm terrible at business. That explanation feels convincing because failure hurts. But there is another possibility as well. What if Daniel has a conclusion which is too large for the evidence? So when Daniel tells himself that he's not good for business, maybe that's too big of claim for an experience that he had. His business didn't work, but why? Maybe the meals were too expensive. Maybe delivery was inconvenient. Maybe people wanted healthy food but preferred cooking it themselves. Maybe the advertising reached the wrong customers. Maybe people liked the idea when talking about it, but weren't willing to pay for it. Those are very different explanations, and each one suggests a different next move. So instead of asking, what is wrong with me? Daniel begins asking, what assumption did really just challenge? So is the interesting thing that I need to think about on the change of process of doing things that I'm doing. What are the type of things that needs to change, basically? The question changes everything. So when you are asking yourself, what do I need to change? So for example, he talks to the customers. He talks to people who visited the website but did not order. He compares prices. He experiments with different offers. So, and slowly the value, this thing that he was thinking failure towards himself starts breaking apart into specific information. He starts sort of bringing in new elements, breaking this down. A mistake, and he's thinking that, oh, he's a failure. Now he notices that this is actually a beginning of the map, of the roadmap, that what's most relevant to what he's doing, which he needs to take action on. So when he starts taking those steps, breaking this down and taking those steps, he can see a new roadmap now. So the failure becomes a roadmap. Thinking about feeling of failure. So the original idea contained assumptions. So when he started the business, he just assumed things. He just thought that this is how things happen. But the more information about the customers, about their behaviors, about what's the best marketing strategy, what's the best ad, who are the type of people he needs to interact with, who might be interested in his product. There are many elements, and he sits back and now he sees a new roadmap. So if he's not succeeding at having customers, that was just one view. He comes to a point where he thinks that, oh, I'm not good at business, I'm a failure. But then when he sits down and breaks this down, he realized there are many steps, many branches of actions that he needs to take for that assumption of that business to come true. So these steps show him a roadmap, a new roadmap. So he can sort of, after breaking this down, he will sort of realize that what kind of things those people want. They will pay for this much, for example. They want it delivered this way. The advertising will reach them, or if it's not reaching them, the message will persuade them. So the business was really a collection of predictions. So basically what he did up until that point, that meant that the machine, the business that he set up, is giving him a collection of predictions and information. Now he has a new roadmap coming through. And sort of the principle of this reaches far beyond business. Consider an exam. So for example, a student gets a 48% result from an exam. The emotional interpretation might be, I'm bad at this subject. So you might think, I'm fail at this. I'm really bad. And but 48% contains much more information than that. So if he's achieving that much, it means that there are certain information that he's gaining from this mark, 48% of the marks that he has completed. He needs to sit down and break this down. Which questions were wrong? Was the problem memory? So was he something that he couldn't remember enough? Or was it his understanding of the problem? Was it the stress and anxiety from time pressure? That's an element. That, by the way, element of time pressure can create a lot of anxiety for a lot of people. A lot of successful people out there have had times of breakdowns because of the time pressure. At some point in their lives, they couldn't hold it together because of the anxiety and time pressure. And it's natural. It's human beings' reaction to things. So you need to understand that the time pressure is a huge aspect of you making a mistake or feeling failure. That's really important to understand. Time pressure and anxiety side of things. It might be very simple, very sort of small to sort of mention and talk about, but it's a very soft, I would call it a soft switch, where it just breaks things down and you give up. Or you So time is really important. Time pressure has a great impact on your work or study. Now, did a student spend 10 hours rereading notes when they actually needed practice questions? Two students can receive exactly the same score for completely different reasons. One may not understand the material, the other may understand, but perform badly under time pressure. So that's also really important to be aware. Same result, different problem, different solution. Now, I would like to say that that's why treating every mistake simply as failure destroys useful information. It's like seeing a warm light on your car and responding by saying my car is terrible. Maybe, but that doesn't tell you what needs fixing. The warning light is trying to tell you something, and human mistakes often work the same way. Now, consider something more emotional, a relationship. Two people keep arguing because one person feels ignored. The obvious story might be, you don't care about me. So that's like simply one of the people in the relationship might tell you that, okay, you don't care about me. But suppose the other person genuinely does care. And it could be many different situations, so we can't apply all to everyone, but could be situations with different sort of aspects. But I'm not trying to, please be minded that in here I'm not trying to encourage you if you have evidence of in a relationship where it's not, where you are observing certain sort of aspects of behavior, please be sort of cautious. But in here I'm just generalizing that in relationships people might have different generally might have different assumptions, and that's also important. Now, so time is really important. Time pressure has a great impact on your work or study. Now, did a student spend 10 hours rereading notes when they actually needed practice questions? Two students can receive exactly the same score for completely different reasons. Uh, one may not understand the material, the other may understand, but perform badly under time pressure. So that's also really important to be aware. Same result, different problem, different solution. Now, I would like to say that that's why treating every mistake simply as failure destroys useful information. It's like seeing a warm light on your car and responding by saying my car is terrible. Maybe, but that doesn't tell you what needs fixing. The warning light is trying to tell you something, and human mistakes often work the same way. Now, consider something more emotional, a relationship. Two people keep arguing because one person feels ignored. The obvious story might be, you don't care about me. So that's like simply one of the people in the relationship might tell you that, okay, you don't care about me. But suppose the other person genuinely does care. And it could be many different situations. So we can't apply all to everyone, but could be situations with different sort of aspects. But I'm not trying to, please be minded that in here I'm not trying to encourage you if you have evidence of in a relationship where it's not, where you are observing certain sort of aspects of behavior, please be sort of cautious. But in here I'm just generalizing that in relationships people might have different generally might have different assumptions, and that's also important. Now let me talk about the next topic in here. So one person experiences love through conversation and attention. The other assumes that working hard solves problems or providing practical help already communicates love. Neither person necessarily lacks affection. Their models of what affection looks like may be different. The argument exposes the mistake. That doesn't mean every relationship problem is merely a misunderstanding. Sometimes people really do behave selfishly, dishonestly, or cruelly. But conflict is still information. It tells us something about expectations, communication, boundaries, values, or behavior. And this is where being wrong becomes uncomfortable, because getting useful information from mistakes requires something the ego hates. You have to admit that your original explanation might not be correct. So here is where the entire idea changes. Suppose Daniel changed his meal delivery business. He lowers the price, nothing happened. He changes the advertising, still nothing. He improves the website, and no difference. Eventually, he discovers something much more important. The problem wasn't the website, it was the logo, or something like that. It wasn't even the advertising. People like the idea of convenient, healthy meals. But not enough of his target customers wanted them at a price that make the business sustainable. So this can cause problem when the customers don't want the product, they don't want to pay as much because if they pay lower, then the business is not sustainable for Daniel. So Daniel had been improving the answer to the wrong questions. He's been really trying to find the answer to the wrong question. He kept asking, how can I sell this better? Reality was pushing him toward another question. Do enough people actually want this? That is a profound difference. And we do this constantly. We assume our model of the problem is correct. And then we try harder inside that model. Now I know this gets a little bit more complex as we talk about, especially about the business and marketing side. It gets a little bit busy, complex. But I'd like to sort of explain this for you, that to understand that there are different sort of aspects of things which you might not necessarily know, but you point at yourself if you are making a mistake, and you tell yourself that as a failure. You can consider yourself as a failure, which might not necessarily be correct, which because there are other elements involved. So a student says, I need to study longer. Maybe sort of as a, the right approach. But what if the real problem is how they study? Maybe you study a lot, but how do you study? Do you have the right technique in studying for your exam? A manager might say, my employees need more motivation. Maybe. But what if the system makes good work unnecessarily difficult? So in a work environment, you as a manager or a business owner, you might sort of creating a cycle of work where it makes it more difficult for people to do their job. And so someone say, I need to explain myself better in a relationship, for example. But what the relationship problem is misunderstanding. So you might tell yourself that I need to explain myself better, but the relationship problem isn't misunderstanding. That can be very interesting to sort of find out where the problem is, because there are different understanding. This is a different translation of each individual. You might have a different solution for the problem, and the other person might have a completely different solution because the other person is thinking the problem is something else. So those are the parts which are the missing parts. What if the two people genuinely want different things? This is why mistakes can be so valuable. They don't simply tell us that an answer failed. Sometimes they reveal that we were asking the wrong question. So the wrong question is, you might think that you want to solve something because you think you need to solve that aspect of the relationship, but the other person in his or her mind are thinking about the problem is completely something else. The solution for that problem is completely something else. So one failure does not automatically prove a particular explanation. If a business failed, you cannot instantly conclude that the market rejected the product. If someone rejects you, you cannot conclude that relationships are hopeless. If one strategy works, you cannot assume it will always work. Evidence has to be interpreted. And interpretation can also be wrong. So people might have different interpretation of different things in their own head. You might think in your own head that you have understood the problem and you have a solution for it, but in someone else's, in relationships or communication, in someone else's head, they are thinking that the problem is something else and they have a completely different solution for that, and that could be wrong. So you need to find out that. So the deeper skill is not merely learning from mistakes, it is learning how to investigate them. That's a very good skill, to investigate what actually the problem is. You might think it's what you think, but it might not necessarily be that problem. It might be something else. So the skill in here that you develop is how to investigate those issues. What did I expect? You might ask yourself. What actually happened? So you need to sort of describe what happened in a very clear manner, in a very step-by-step, clearly break it down. Where did the prediction and reality separate? What else could explain the result? And what could I try next time that would help me distinguish between those explanations? So now failure has become something very different. It has become an experiment. That's very interesting. So the failure that we were talking about it, that everybody has in their life, continuously this happens, could be a variety of different things, mistakes and failures. But what does this mean? We just received this conclusion that we need to get better at one more skill, and that one more skill is going to simplify every other things that we are thinking about. It's not going to completely resolve everything, but this one more skill, which is called investigating the problem, on looking at what did you expect from what happened and what actually happened. So describing what happened and predicting, and reality, checking what the reality of the situation and what are the prediction of consequences. So it's going through this, creating a new skill, investigating the problem. So the big sort of understanding that we are trying to hear in this video to understand is that there is a bigger idea hiding underneath of all this. So human beings do not experience reality with perfect knowledge. We build mental models. We have models of money. We think about money in our own head in a certain type of way. Models of relationships, models of success, models of ourselves. We have all these models in our head. You might believe if I work hard, I will succeed. That model is useful. Hard work often matters enormously, but reality is more complicated. So hard work plus what? Someone can work extremely hard on a product nobody wants. Another person can work hard using a strategy that stopped working years ago. Now, one of the biggest successful people internationally, they have talked about this, that for example, he was at some point doing sales during his teenage years. He was going up to under 20, he was selling something. That's but at some point he realized that he needs to move to selling a new idea, new sort of bit. So one of the biggest ideas in here is that there have been many successful people in the world who have many challenges in their lives, and one of them is that they had to stop selling a product that they produced, and they start a new line of service. There are many successful millionaires, companies that have been working around the world, and they are successful now. When they started, the individuals, the people that started, initially they were working on a product or service and then they have to change it, revise it to a different product, because that product either they weren't good at, they found out that it's not, like enough people want it, or the new product that they found out that they can work on has a better sort of return, so they changed it completely. So this happens to a lot of successful people. Another person can work and use a strategy that stopped working for years. Some people can, might happen, stumble upon doing a business that might not necessarily work for them at the time, and they have to be more creative. So when reality contradicts our expectations, we face a choice: protect the model or update it. That is one reason being wrong can feel threatening. We aren't only losing an argument, sometimes we are losing a piece of the world as we understand it. But changing our model is also how knowledge grows. So here we come across a situation, we feel the mistake, the failure, and we now not only lose that situation, but also our own mindset starts sort of questioning ourselves, that because in our mindset during our life, our mindset has created this worldview of how we think things are, and now we have to change that, and that becomes painful for a lot of people, for anybody. A lot of people have gone through this. I might tell you that based on, doesn't matter how successful they are, doesn't matter how they have lived their life, everywhere, most successful people has gone through this pain of failure, this pain of being challenged, the pain of making mistakes and losing something. Could be a relationship, could be business, could be all kinds of things. And of course, if you're a student, could be in your exams. So losing is a part of life. And what happens next is that what you learn from that loss, and you develop this skill of investigating what you can do about why that problem happened, why that loss happened, why that on a scientific way, on a psychological way, on a practically effective way, based on your personal experience, based on life experience, based on other people's experience, sort of trying to translate it through many variety of aspects of life to finding out where this problem has caused the feeling of failure. So if you are having those moments of feeling failure, which impacts your confidence, you are not alone. A lot of most successful people go through that, and that's why those successful people have been able to move up, because they kept it together, they found out where the problem was, they used that information to move forward, to take the next step up. So that's also important. Now, if you liked, now I know this video became a little bit longer than I expected, but usually these my conversations are going to be a little bit longer than average. So if you like the content of this video, the conversation that I'm having, please make sure you like the video on YouTube, and also make sure you subscribe so that you keep receiving these videos. I'll see you in the next video.